Hello and welcome to Froch on Fighting. I'm Carl Froch. Whilst I've got you, please don't forget to hit subscribe, sit back and enjoy the analysis of last weekend's fight between Anthony Joshua and Robert Helenius. Time to hear the truth.
So what are your thoughts on AJ's performance? Rate it out of 10.
I think the performance last week with Anthony Joshua and Robert Helenius, where Helenius stepped in because Dillian Whyte failed a drugs test. I was disappointed with it. That's why I stayed here in Spain and watched the fight. Didn't want to fly back and watch it because I was disappointed that I was actually watching AJ Helenius. What a shame that was. But Eddie Hearn held the show together and we got Helenius. And yes, I went to a friend's over here to watch it. Sat there watching it, and there was a lot of things that happened through the night where I was a little bit confused by. So we'll go into that in a minute. But Anthony Joshua's performance for me was a 5 out of 10 performance. Okay, he got the job done. He knocked out Helenius in round 7 with a decent set it up with a body shot through an overhand right hand and knocked Helenius out. I mean, Helenius was exhausted by that point, which is why I thought the knockout came. AJ timed him nicely with the jab to the body, then brought the right hand over the top. Helenius was moving away from the shot, which took the sting out of the punch. So I don't think he was knocked out cold, but he was exhausted. And I think once he got hit with that shot and he went over, he probably thought to himself, you know what, I've earned my money. I'm not going to win the fight. I'm not getting paid for overtime. So let's stay down and go home. Why wouldn't he? Boxed a week earlier against nobody that sets him up for AJ, let's be honest. And it was a late replacement. It was poor. It was a weak opponent for this stage of AJ's career, who's now looking at fighting somebody like Deontay Wilder, the big round 1 El Sparko. He actually knocked out Helenius 2 fights ago in the first round. And I think Anthony Joshua, if he's looking at fighting Deontay Wilder on the back of that performance was awful. It was terrible. It was such a bad performance in so many ways. It was tentative. It was gun shy. He looked like he didn't want to be in there at times. He was getting outboxed with a weak, poor jab. Helenius was sticking the jab out and just smashing it, ramrodding it in AJ's face. It was a poor, weak jab. He wasn't setting up. He was just throwing his jab. It was well easily timeable. If someone throws a jab like that to you, slip to the right hand side and throw your big right hand, or get underneath it and throw a big uppercut and then step in behind 3 or 4 shots. It would have been out of there in 1 or 2 rounds, like what Deontay Wilder did to him. But Anthony Joshua was sitting back, waiting, looking confused, looking like he didn't know, he was scared to throw. He looked a bit gun shy. And I just think that, has he been sparring? Who's he been sparring? What's going on in his head? Listen, he's not ready for the Deontay Wilder fight. I really don't think he is. That performance does not set him up for a big showdown with Deontay Wilder.
The crowd were booing AJ at points for being tentative. Do you think that's harsh?
Yeah, it's a little bit harsh. British fans can be a bit like that. They love an underdog. They love to build you up and they love to pull you back down. But if they're bored and they want value for money, and AJ's sitting there behind his jab or behind some kind of dodgy defence, putting people to sleep, then they're going to boo. They do it. But they soon turn around. As soon as you start putting shots together and you start picking the pace up, then they start to get behind you and get with you. But I've given my analysis really. I just think the performance from AJ was so bad. I just don't think actually, and I would be really, really shocked if he decides to take the Deontay Wilder fight in his next fight. Put it this way: if he takes Deontay Wilder in his next fight, he's doing it purely for the money. And he did say now he's fighting for money. Money is his motivation, and that shouldn't be a motivation in boxing. You should want to become champion. You should want to become best in the world. You should want a legacy. You should maybe want to be in the Hall of Fame at some point. And that's where your mind should be, not on how much money you're earning. Because if you go into the Deontay Wilder fight thinking about money, you're going to walk into a right hand. And forget what he's thinking about. Just purely stylistically wise, AJ is like a beginner. He's like a novice pro. That performance against Helenius, if that was AJ's 12th, 13th, 14th fight early on in his pro career, and he put that performance on, you'd say, yeah, it was a good performance actually from AJ, because he's still going to build, he's still going to have more learning fights, and eventually he's going to fight for a world title against somebody like Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder. But that was a fight where he's coming off the back of being a 2-time world champion, a unified heavyweight champion. All right, he lost to Ruiz, but come on, let's get back on that horse. Let's get back in there. Let's show some aggression. But he never has. The rematch with Ruiz was a jab and run in Saudi. I was there inside. Very, very weak performance of safety first. Got the points win. Okay, did what he had to do to get his belts back. But it didn't show. And I said at the time, and I got criticised for it, but I said at the time that doesn't show me anything that that tells me he's ready to fight someone like Tyson Fury. And people start bitching and moaning. But I know boxing. I know how the sport works. AJ needs to get his mind right. And the only way he's going to get confident is by being aggressive, on his front foot, putting combination punches together, being aggressive and going for it. And he doesn't do any of that. The only reason he got the knockout of Helenius, in my opinion, is because Helenius was knackered by round 7. He'd had enough. He'd absolutely bust up AJ behind the jab, smashed his eye, all swellings under his eyes. His nose was pissing with blood. His mouth was all bleeding, as we saw when he jumped out the ring, which was a bit strange, and had a slurp on that nasty Irish stout that Conor McGregor shoved in his face. Had all blood and snot and sweat all inside that pint. And how unprofessional is that? AJ jumps out the ring, a bit disrespectful as well. Before Helenius is receiving medical attention, he jumps out the ring. Okay, fair play. Go and see your dad. Go and see your family. You've just won a fight and you're a bit nervous and you want to get the victory and there's a lot of pressure on you. Okay, fine. But don't go over to Conor McGregor, who's trying to steal the show, making probably a really expensive suit look fucking really cheap, because he just looks like a scruffy bastard. Standing around at ringside, shouting and talking bollocks, trying to be centre of attention. Shoves that nasty Irish stout in AJ's face. He shouldn't have drunk that stout, because that stout could have been contaminated. He's got to do a post-fight drug test. Very unprofessional from Anthony Joshua. But anyway, that's my little rant on that bit over.
So you're saying it's a bad performance by AJ, but that's not what other people ringside were saying.
Well, the analysts on the night, Barry Jones, I like Barry Jones. I've done a bit of work with him. With Left Peg Media and BBC 5 Live Radio. I'm now working with TalkSport. Anyway, Barry Jones, I like him. He's very knowledgeable around boxing. David Hay was there, very good friend of mine. And Tony Bellew, again, another good friend of mine. Tony Bellew's got a problem when he commentates on his fights because he's so loyal. He's a proper passionate scouser. And he doesn't want to give any criticism. That's why I married Rachel, one of the reasons I married her, because she's such a loyal, beautiful human being. And Tony Bellew finds it difficult to criticise Derek Chisora when he's fighting. He finds it hard to give Anthony Joshua any honest criticism. So maybe he shouldn't be commentating or giving his analysts on his friends, because as fans and as people viewing, they want an honest opinion. And David Hay was trying to say something about his performance. I think he referenced the Lennox Lewis Andrew Golota fight, to which Tony Bellew rightly said that Lennox Lewis had not lost before he fought Golota. But Hay's comeback then, who got silenced, should have probably been, well, when he got knocked out by Hassim Rahman, he came straight back and knocked him out, obliterated him. When he got beat by Oliver McCall, he came back and rematched him and battered him as well. And that's what AJ needs to be doing. If he loses, he needs to be coming back at top level. All right, you can have 1 or 2 rebuild fights. He's changed his trainer. He's making an adjustment. But he's not rebuilding. He's not learning on the job. He's 33 years old, and he needs to be getting a move on with good performances, and he's not doing it. And nobody's saying it because they're worried about who they're going to upset, whether it's the TV broadcaster, whether it's the promoter, or whether it's their friend. I don't care. I've got to just tell it how it is. Let's be honest. Anthony Joshua, do not fight Deontay Wilder in your next fight, because you will get absolutely knocked El Sparko. If you're doing it for the money, take the money, fair enough. But keep yourself safe, because this is a dangerous sport. And I don't know if you're not getting the sparring. I don't know what's happening with your training, but you're looking like a man who's a novice pro, who's scared to throw punches, and it's not good enough. Deontay Wilder will be watching that performance, absolutely licking his lips. So my advice would be probably the same advice that Tony Bellew's giving you. Maybe you have got to rebuild. Maybe you have got to go back to the drawing board. But don't jump in with Deontay Wilder on the back of that performance, because it was crap. It's not good enough, and it's just dangerous. This sport is a dangerous sport, and Deontay Wilder will come for you. He'll be aggressive. Of course, the towel can come in, the referee will save the day, whatever. But if you're serious about becoming world champion again, you need to get some absolutely just torturous, hellish sparring before this fight with Deontay Wilder. Because at the minute, you are not ready. It's as simple as that. So at the press conference after, it was very strange. Anthony Joshua was asked, "What do you think of your performance?" Anthony Joshua replied, "I don't like to give analysis. I don't like to rate my performance. I leave that to my coach, Derek James, his new coach." So when Derek James was asked, "What did you think to Anthony Joshua's performance?" What did he say? I couldn't quite see that behind the ring post was in the way. I couldn't quite see the fight." What do you mean you couldn't see the fight? You get your head underneath the bottom rope and you watch the boxing. The post is not in your way. To come out, is that really what we're going to accept? We can't give an analysis of Anthony Joshua's performance from a professional coach's point of view, because Anthony Joshua don't want to answer it, because the ring post is in the way. And you caught a little bit on ringside on the replay in between the rounds. And how are you giving instructions to AJ in between rounds if you can't see the fight? That was ridiculous. Anthony Joshua supping on that nasty Irish stout, covering it in blood, snot and sweat was ridiculous. I'm not so sure about Ebaine Bridges, a genuine, bona fide female world champion representing the sport in this way. I'm not sure if it's good or bad for the sport. I like Ebaine Bridges. I think she's brilliant. She's a proper fighter and I think she's class. But just parading around with the Irish stout outfit on, being a fluffer for McGregor, I'm not sure if that's the role that I want to see for women's boxing. I'm not sure if that's the image we need. So that's another thing that was strange. AJ jumping out the ring. And also AJ, when he was asked on the night, what happened? Like, what's happening with the Deontay Wilder? If that's what I was going to say, what happened with performance? It wasn't that. That was a post-fight press conference.
So this is in the ring?
This is in the ring. They just said, what about Deontay Wilder? They mentioned Deontay Wilder. The very thought of Deontay Wilder getting mentioned in an interview with AJ, you can just see he doesn't fancy it. He's scared to answer. So what did he say? Oh, what's that? I've got a bad back. Oh, my back's hurting from carrying heavyweight boxing. Anthony Joshua is not carrying heavyweight boxing. He's no longer got any titles. I don't know if anybody's keeping up, but Alexander Usyk beat him back-to-back for them unified belts. And Tyson Fury's got the other belt, the WBC title. So all this AJ carrying boxing is ridiculous. Okay, the big money might be in Saudi Arabia for him. Whether that's good or bad for boxing remains to be seen. But the whole show was strange. With all the things I've mentioned, even down to KSI being at ringside, shouting and ranting and calling out Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury nails him like he beat Jake Paul. But I don't know. Is this where boxing's headed? I like proper professional boxing, real professional boxing. That's why I give Jake Paul stick, because you're good at making money, you're good at what you do, but you're not a pro fighter. You're just a clown, a performing clown. I've said it before and I'll say it again. And that's the reason the fight with me never happened. 9 years retired. Like I said before, I'll put him into fucking orbit. Bosh, uppercut, off he flies. That's not going to happen. But that's the level of this boxing game.
But is this where it's going now?
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Is this where it's going? DAZN are putting on these shows, and you've got KSI there shouting out Tommy Fury. We've already had Tommy Fury, Jake Paul, and it's a bit of a crossover in between. But for real professional fighters, proper boxing, I'm not so sure this is good for the sport, and I hope it's not going down that direction. But I suppose it's whatever sells, whatever brings in the ratings for DAZN, whatever brings in the money for the fighters. You're just going to have to just maybe, I might have to just change with the times and just accept that this is what's happening. But as far as I'm concerned, you can't be a good old-fashioned, passionate dust-up between two quality professionals, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. Fine example of two fighters at the top of their game fighting each other. And that's how boxing should be.
So this is a quote by Eddie Hearn on AJ. I think if he can be a little bit more aggressive with his style that he's adopted, with the way he's improved his feet, his movement, his defence, his distance, I think he's going to be, it's difficult to say unbeatable, but I think he beats everyone. I'm so confident he beats Deontay Wilder.
What a load of bullshit from Eddie Hearn. Did he say that?
Yeah,
I'm going to have a look at that quote.
Listen,
quote. Eddie Hearn's got a job to do. He's got to promote his fighters. He's got to back his fighters. He's got to believe in them. He's also got to impress DAZN. But that is bullshit. There's no way you could look at that performance of Robert Helenius and then draw the conclusion that AJ's improved in his footwork, his distance, his timing. If he needs to be a little bit more aggressive, and then he can go on and beat Deontay Wilder. No, that shows that Eddie Hearn doesn't understand boxing. He doesn't get it. It just shows that, and he does understand boxing, and he does get it. He knows. He's talking the talk. He's building his man up. Fair play to him. But I'll tell it how it is. That performance from AJ was not good enough to go anywhere near Deontay Wilder in his very next fight, unless he doesn't mind getting slaughtered for the money. I'm going to quote another film here. If Eddie Hearn is serious about taking AJ out to fight Deontay Wilder on the back of that last performance, it's going to be the film with Sylvester Stallone. It's not another Rocky film. It's First Blood, Rambo Part 1. Remember when they're all going in to get Rambo, John J. Rambo's there, and he's saying, listen, you're going to go in after him and not let him slip out the back, and we'll pick him up on the road later on. If you're going to go after him and you're going to go and take him on, like AJ's going to take on Wilder, what does he say? Don't forget one thing. He's like, what? A good supply of body bags. Now listen, that sounds harsh, but Eddie Hearn, this is what you're setting Anthony Joshua up for. A proper, serious pasting and a potential brutal knockout. So, it's on you. Unless you're seeing something I'm not seeing in the gyms, unless you're seeing something I'm not seeing in the sparring, because you're quoting how great AJ's doing and how good his performance is. Meanwhile, Tony Bellew saying he's learning on the job and he's rebuilding. Which one is it? Is he ready for Deontay Wilder or is he not ready? I don't think he is, but you just got to be careful with your fighters and not always think about the money. I know there's massive money waiting for him in Saudi, but money is not the be-all and the end-all. Your health is more important than anything. So, something to think about. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think on the comments below. And actually, I did want Rachel asking the questions in vision, because she looks so beautiful, my wife. I'm not just saying it because she's my wife, happy life and all that. I wanted to get her in, but it's too hot.
It's a bit too hot today.
I can't be bothered to turn the camera on and get her to answer the questions. So guess what,
Oh,
right?
oh.
I want you to close the show for me, please.
Oh, I'll come in
Come on,
then.
over here.
Oh,
Look at
thank you. That's a privilege.
So anyway, let me get your camera.
Thank you.
It's been watching fighting for another week. Don't forget to
Oh,
subscribe.
I'll get away. I know how to do this. That's fine.
Yeah, give it the big one. Come on, go this way, a bit closer, a bit closer. And there's just that. Come on then, let's close the show.
So thank you for watching. This has been Froch on Fighting with me, Rachael Froch, and the husband. He does a little something on it with Carl Froch. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we're going to see you next week. Bye.